Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have finally reached the day of days in 2019. The best of the best is here. Yesterday we talked about the top 10 worst albums in rock and metal of 2019, and there was some duds in there, yeah, there was some trash we had to go through and all of that, but ain't that right, Kane? We're going to be talking about the top 40 albums of the year. I'm a big dog, I'm a German Shepherd, right here below the camera, but big day here. 2019, as I said yesterday, was a fantastic year of music. So much stuff released. What a year it was. Great year to end the decade of the 2010s. As we are only days away from the new year. It's incredible. But let's kick things off right. The top 40 rock and metal albums of 2019. The best of the best. It is here, ladies and gentlemen. Now, you gotta quickly grab a drink or snack or anything. Hurry up and get it because the class is leaving you behind. There is an honorable mention before we get to the main list, so let's get to that really quickly. The honorable mention goes to Mark Morton's Anesthetic. Now, Mark Morton is the guitarist for Lamb of God. I felt as though this album was good. Barely missed the top 40 list, though. It had some great riffing in it and stuff, some nice ideas, but I think he played with the Lamb of God playbook a little bit too much. But doesn't set the fact, that doesn't make the album bad. It's just, it's like copy and paste a little bit. But I really did like the song Crossed Off featuring Chester Bennington. Rest in peace, Chester. But now it's time to get to the main list as we kick things off at number 40 with a Mice and Men with Earth and Sky. Metalcore outing that, continues to evolve. Their evolution has been one that's been quite interesting in the last few years, and I think that their kind of experimentation along with their roots going together, it's making them kind of creep things back up into where they used to be. So congratulations to Mice. Number 39 is Soilwork with Berkley Kenton. I might have mispronounced that. Melodic death metal band that released a very interesting album this year. It did have some good elements in there. Definitely one that barely made the list once again. There was some emotion shown on here, just some nice drive and power behind it. So not bad to say the least. Number 38 is 311 with Voyager. Quite an experimentative album to say the least. Basically, they touch on all corners of their career, going back to their early days with experimentation to what their more modernized aspects. Makes for quite a interesting album, even quirky at times. You kind of get a Sublime feeling too with this, so really awesome for 311 to nail that down. Number 37 is KillSwitch Engage with Atonement. Now, this is an album that had a strong first half, but the second half kind of fell off just a little bit. But KillSwitch Engage, man, they continue to keep going at the age they're at. One of the leading groups of metalcore in general, and just one that had a lot of focus and drive behind it. Featured a couple of guest vocalists, Chuck Billy and Howard Jones, the former vocalist of KillSwitch. Number 36 is Mama Martha Berserker. Melodic death metal, once again, kind of lower on the list. This is an album that was strong. I don't have a lot to say about this album. It felt more of like a maybe typical Mama Martha, but there was some drive behind it, some power, enough to really kind of entice me a bit. So definitely a strong album to say the least. Title kind of speaks for itself. Not too bad. Great melody flowing through this album. Number 35 is Born of a Cyrus with The Simulation. We never got the second part to what it was supposed to be. There were supposed to release 2 albums this year. We never got the second album, but The Simulation proves as something where they kind of experimented a little bit, it seemed like, with some, maybe some, like, I'm going to call it synth, but I don't know how to describe it. It's in the song Under the Gun or something like that. Nice metalcore aspects, kind of some swaying, schizophrenic kind of feel at times with songs such as Analogs and Cell and One Without the Other. Quite an album. Congratulations to Born of a Cyrus. They definitely deserve to make the list. Number 34 is Oh Sleeper with Bloodied Unbowed. Metalcore act that had an album that kind of felt the lines of KillSwitch Engage with an Asking Alexandria-esque type of flow. Definitely some serious aggression here. They're actually a Christian metalcore group. I don't know how you would consider them Christian with this kind of album cover. Pretty disgusting if you ask me, but anyway, the point is that this is a pretty good album, actually. Definitely check it out, especially if you're in a band such as Asking Alexandria and KillSwitch Engage. You definitely kind of get that vibe. I kind of do. Number 33 is Children of Bodom with Hexed. Definitely a strong outing by Children of Bodom. Bodom, the Finnish metal band, melodic death metal. Already getting a couple of melodic death metal groups going in the early goings, but this is a band that if the material was strong at times. I like the melody, the harmony in this record, the aggression being brought out. Unfortunately, 3/5 of the band quit. Yeah, about, what was it, 2 months ago it happened, and I hope that the band can continue forward with what they have now. It's such a shame to see that had happened, but We'll see. Only time will tell. Number 32 is Queensryche with The Verdict. Long-term, ongoing progressive rock band Queensryche. Their 15th album, The Verdict, still going strong. This is a strong album, to say the least. Definitely not among their best. Not even, obviously not, like Silent Lucidity or stuff like that. The classics that we all know, like Operation Mindcrime, the first one. But definitely a strong outing. Kind of, maybe some experimentation a little bit in there, too. Just kind of going along with their traditional roots. Kind of has some aggression left behind. They're kind of like, hey, we're not out of it just yet just because we're older. We could put out a good album here and there, or every time we got. Todd La Torre has proven to be quite the substitute as their newer vocalist. Number 31 is Scott Stapp with The Space Between the Shadows. Some of you might see this as a surprise pick, believe it or not. But Scott Stapp, I really believed in this album, believe it or not. Yeah, a lot of you are kind of sick and tired of listening to his voice. Yeah, obviously the whole thing with Creed and all that. But you gotta give it to him on this record. This is actually a strong album, believe it or not. Yeah, the second half kind of gets a little bit annoying, maybe a little bit with his vocals. Kind of just being all like, I don't know how to explain it, but I mean, he really poured his heart out into this one. He really tried. Obviously, like with the album, such Full Circle by Creed, you're just kind of like, man, I've heard it all before, blah, blah, blah. But I really feel like Scott Stapp, he's cleaned up his act, and you know what? There's a chance that Creed might reunite in the future a second time. So if Creed does reunite, that'd be really something special for them. And that would definitely satisfy Scott Stapp. Number 30 is Dragonforce with Extreme Power Metal. Now, some of you also might see this as a surprise pick. I know some of you don't really give two craps about Dragonforce, and there's some who are just all about the soloing and as fast as we can play as humanly possible. With songs such as Through the Fire and Flames, that song is so overplayed, my god. But Dragonforce, I think, proved to me with this record that you can have very fast-paced power metal with some emotion behind it, too. You really feel, I don't know, I mean, some people would just see this as excessive soloing, nonsense soloing. I mean, I see it more as of like, I can really apply myself to it. It has that kind of feel where I really like it to the point where it's really cool. They even did a Celine Dion cover. That was quite wild. I was just like, what is happening here? My Heart Will Go On was the song they covered. But overall, decent album, enough to make number 30 on the list. Number 29, speaking of surprises, Rammstein with Untitled. This is their first album in a decade. And wow, they surprised me a little bit with this record. Definitely, arguably their most experimental album to date. They touched on all bases of their career, basically, with this one. And I like how they did that. Kind of like what 311 did. This band did the same thing, too. You kind of have that fun, one song in there where it's like a fun Rammstein, kind of like a club rock style, maybe? The hard-hitting opener, Deutschland, which is Germany in English, just, it set the tone, You're really, you're just feeling Rammstein. You're taking a walk through the past, almost, with this record. And this is quite something else. This kind of reminds me of the Beatles' White album. You look at this, it's white with just a matchstick. You don't know what you're going to get. So, props to them. Number 28 is Sabaton with The Great War. Deals with the theme of World War I, which is also referred to as The Great War. Each song has a theme of a different title, kind of like, like The Victims or something like that, or Battle of this and that. I like the storytelling with this one. I like how they were able to apply the music with the story and make it, seem like it meant something, and there was no shortage of that. It definitely was really cool to hear this band for the first time. I never really listened to these guys until, a month ago. And this album really proved to me that these guys are definitely worth something. They've been going on for 20 years now, and they're definitely getting ready to be among the most well-known power metal bands in general. So, congrats to Sabaton. Number 27 is War of Ages with Void. Metalcore, back again, number 27. Metalcore, I just gotta say this right now, Metalcore's had quite the year, a busy year, should I say. A lot of metalcore albums released this year, among the most in the metal subgenres in general, but this is an album that brings aggression. They are a Christian metal band. Now, I liked how they kind of brought a little bit of diversity with things a little bit, that how there's the pacing on this one really helped things out a bit. Not all fast. I like the bit of a diversity what they did with this, the pacing and the riffing and stuff. The tone was great. The lyrics were great. Everything about this album was solid. This is basically a solid metalcore album that you should definitely pick up. It's really good. I think you might like it. Definitely, it climbs among probably one of their better albums. Number 26 is Astronoid with Self-Titled. Numerous genres with this one. This was a strange album for me at first, but the more I kind of thought about it, the more I was like, this was quite an album that brought some swift melody with it. It was one that it was kind of things where just it was kind of like viewing through the scope kind of thing. Black gaze, post-metal kind of elements, even some other non-metal, non-rock genres in here too. Definitely one that had a lot just the combination of things in this album kind of was what made it so good, I think, and what made it strong. So, Astronoid, it's another solid album by them. They're early in their career, I believe, if I remember correctly. There's so much with this list to remember, but number 25 is Lacuna Coil with Black Anima, another surprise pick, I think, by some that are going to think that. But you gotta set things straight. Lacuna Coil, my goodness. This album actually had some serious aggression behind it. Now, there's been a lack of the soul in their stuff over the last decade, better part of over the decade, but I think they're finally starting to get out of that rut. I think they're really starting to find their way with things. This album brought some emotion behind it. They sound like they have some life. Like Christina Scabbia had life to her voice. The other guy did too. The riffing was good. I like the diversity, some of the different kind of singing styles going on with this one. Made for a rather intense album, but also a swift mover too. Black Anima served as kind of like the calling of the return of what Lacuna Coil once was a little bit. So, congratulations to these guys, my God. Number 24 is Volbeat with Rewind, Replay, Rebound. Now, one thing I forgot to mention, the score doesn't matter at this point, this end of the year. So, Volbeat, my God, this is a great album. What a fun album this is to listen to. Elements of rock, just good old rock, rockabilly, psychobilly, you name it, it's probably in here. It's in here, basically. And just 14 tracks, a lot of variety among them. Nice fun, but it's also some seriousness too, with songs like The Everlasting. Even a little bit of unpredictability in there with some more metal influence, like with Gary Holbeat and Cheapside Sloggers. That was quite a song. Just a lot of fun songs. The opening track, Last Day Under the Sun, I've been replaying that song the last month constantly. It's a great song, a great start to the album. A great start to an album always is a big plus in my opinion. So number 23 is Overkill with The Wings of War. My goodness, these guys are ageless. Ageless, I tell you. Overkill has literally no age. They're limitless. Yeah, certainly they're getting older, obviously, but this is a solid thrash metal album. There weren't too many thrash metal albums this year, but this is one that really stood out among them. One of them that did. Just great flow of ideas going on here. No shortage of the same old stuff. It sounds good. It kind of feels like you're back in the 80s again with these guys a little bit. They make it feel old school at times. Even some slower paced stuff, they're good with the pacing. The pacing's great in here. I like the ideas. Bobby Ellsworth, being 60, still doing the vocals he does. It's incredible how he even does it. Just pet my dog real quick. Kane agrees with it too. He likes Overkill. My dog's a more metal doggy. He likes rock and metal because I listen to it a lot. But number 22 is Opeth with Empath in them. Now, among their most experimental albums in this last 4 album stretch of prog rock is Opeth's Empath in them. This is a very interesting album to say the least. The first impression I got was, wow, all these different ideas. Michael Ackerfeld's vocal range has reached new heights with this record, believe it or not. He, like in the song Next of Kin, there's some nice 70s flow in here, Pink Floyd vibe. There's even a jazz influence track, The Garroter. Wow, that's a cool song. I will tell you that. Even like a musical suite that they described it being with the song Universal Truth. This is a very solid album. For those who want to still complain that they don't do growling, well, seriously, you should take what you get and appreciate it. They got like 9 other albums that have growls in it, ranging from Orchid to Watershed, so you make your choice, but great solid album. Number 21 is A Pale Horse Named Death with When the World Becomes Undone. Oh my lord, doom metal meets just a depressive state, meets just felt like an old school doom metal album almost with these guys, and these guys are still relatively young. With their 3rd album, I believe this is, if I remember correctly. Wow, you really felt the hardship in this record. With songs such as Fell in My Hole, you really just, things felt different. You were in a different state, different dimension. That's what doom metal usually does. You really feel the heaviness of the air kind of sinking on you. And with this record, it does it well. It does feel like when the world becomes undone at times with this album. It feels like everything's kind of just done, fried. It's just a fire destroyed everything. I have no idea. Look at the album cover. Explains for itself. We're getting into the top 20 now. Explanations will become just a little bit longer. Number 20 is William Duvall with One Alone. This is the other solo artist on this list. Now, William Duvall, the one thing I really like about this album is the fact that he sticks to himself and what he does. His voice and the acoustic guitar, that's all. And this is honestly a really great album. The lyrics of like love and stuff might get a little old at times. I can understand that. That's the only thing I don't like about this album. The whole thing about love, it just kind of gets old. But, you know, his voice is amazing, and he doesn't really play with the Alice in Chains playbook at all, really. He kind of just sticks to his own little style of just doing what he wants to do. And what a solid... This is actually his first solo album, technically. He's done other projects and stuff from back to the 80s, but this is his first true solo album. Congratulations to William Duvall. Amazing. Number 19 is Pelican with Nighttime Stories, the all-instrumental album by this post-metal band. They continue to prove time and time again that they are among the best in this genre of post-metal. With the distorted sounds, heavy slow guitar riffing, cathartic pacing, it all makes sense. I discussed in the album review how it feels like this is a Nighttime Story. Especially when you get to the middle part of the album, songs such as Cold Hope, It Stares at Me, the self-titled track, it becomes a bit of a stretched out pace, or a stretched out situation. You know, I like how the album diversifies with emotion. This is a terrific release. Absolutely great job by Pelican. Definitely a strong album. It got an 86. I feel like it could be bumped up a little bit at this point. Number 18 is Sun with Life Metal. Now, this is the Sun album I was talking about from yesterday that actually is going to end up making this list. Life Metal is a much stronger album than Pyroclast for a couple of reasons. One, the atmosphere is incredibly it's not devoid of. It's like there is atmosphere behind it. There is some kind of drive behind this. You really feel the pressure that is being brought onto you by this record. I absolutely love how they were able to kind of just pull you in and not let go until it was all over. All 68 minutes have passed by. There's a 25-minute song that closes. The last two songs almost have 45 minutes of total runtime. There's 4 tracks on here. 19 and 25-minute songs, the third and fourth tracks. Woo. There's just some serious thick texture behind this record. There was oomph behind it. Pyroclast didn't have that in my opinion, but this album did, and it really, really stuck to me. That's why I got the score it did, which was 88 out of 100. Number 17 is Avantasia with Moonglow, the second album in the supergroup project of Tobias Sammet. My lord, you want to talk about power metal, some funk metal? Here it is. Here's an album you should listen to. You kind of feel like you're in a Trans-Siberian Orchestra-esque type of concert with this record. There are so many great songs on here. The Raven Child, Alchemy. There's even two tracks on here that guess the vocalist Jeff Tate. Jeff Tate actually doesn't sound bad on this record. He's had, obviously, his fair share of problems with Queensryche from a few years ago, but this is an album that, my lord, it sounds so good. There was drive, power, emotion behind it. I just loved it. The whole scheme overall fit, and it fit perfectly. I don't think you could have done any better with this. You know, it would have been higher if there weren't other albums that were even better than this one. This was such a competitive listing, I'm telling you. A very competitive listing, a competitive year in music. But my lord, please pick this album up. It's definitely worth your time. I think it's like 70 minutes long. It is a long album, or 66 minutes, as a matter of fact. Number 16 is Northlane with Alien. We're getting back into the metalcore department. This is probably among the best creative metalcore albums of the year, although there is certainly one that does exceed this one. But Northlane, my goodness, they made things feel like an alien or group of aliens took over and made this album, and it made it feel like you were in the Space Galactic Battle or something of the Last Age or whatever you want to call it. But I love the different kind of disco metalcore vibe you got going on. I'm not even kidding. With tracks such as like 4D, then you have the traditional heavy riffing song, which is Free Fall, and then the second half just continues the whole smorgasbord of ideas. This is a very intense album, heavy texturized out. A heavy texture is present in this album. Very cool. I loved it actually. It's a nice groove in time. I'll tell you that. One that it can be easily returnable. You know, yet they really brought out the best in them with this one. So, congratulations to Northlane. Number 15, Death Angel with Humanicide are back in the thrash metal department. This is probably the best thrash metal album of the year. These guys continue, like I said with Overkill, these guys are ageless too. So are Testament. Testament's releasing a new album next year, can't wait. But my goodness, Death Angel just made it seem effortless. They knew what they were doing. They just know what to do. They go in the studio and they just do what they gotta do to make what they can to make the album sound really good. I like the Slayer / Testament feel I got from this. It felt like we were back in the late 80s, actually, believe it or not, when I listened to this record. Maybe even a more modern type of, more modern touch to it, too. This is like a both ways, both streets meet one street, basically, or whatever you want to call it. The construction was complete with this one. Really good album. These guys have been on a great streak. Just so cool. Really, really cool. Humanicide's such a very strong record. A lot of great riffing in here. The pacing's even good, too, with songs such as Immortal, Behated, and Revelation Song. You know, like the march-like feel you get with these songs, too. Like, especially Revelation Song. It's just really, really cool. Definitely pick this up if you haven't yet. Number 14, speaking of aggression, Nihil with Vinyl Right. Oh my god, this was a heavy hitter from the get-go with Long Shadows of Dread all the way to the very end. Woo! Where do I even start with this record? A technical death metal based band that they really brought technicality to this record. There is cathartic pacing on here, some fast thrash-like riffing in here, with song like in the Oxford Book of song title is so long. The self-titled track is a yet simple yet heavy hitter. My lord, and Seven Horns of War just brought the album, the elevator, to a whole nother level with the expansion of form. They've done this before. This isn't nothing new for them. They've been around since the 90s, actually, so they are more of a long-term death metal band. But my goodness, I love the power behind this. This gave the album a push like no other. Egyptian theme-based, of course, you definitely can tell with some of the songs. Like, they even, I don't know if they used, like, no, I wouldn't say sitar at one point, but it's like, you could feel the Egyptian-like feel, especially if you're looking at this. You have pharaohs on each side lined up towards the back, but my lord. Great album, great album. Number 13 is Sowing with Lotus. Now, if you were to equate a band to Opeth, this would be them, I would say. Great progressive metal album. They are a super group, actually, of high-tier musicians, or high-profile musicians. Now, this album was so cool. I like the more modern feel of what they were able to do. A modernized prog rock or prog metal album. I like the riffing in here. The nice diverse expansion of emotion with this one. It's like Opeth transformed or something like that. It's more of a, it's like a, I don't know what to say. Opeth and, Dream Theater kind of had a child. This would be it, basically. So, really cool. I like the, things didn't feel forced either with this one. That's what I also liked about it too. Things were kept kind of more simple at times too, and it was a nice, solid listen, I will say that. Number 12 is Slipknot with We Are Not Your Kind. Now, why am I even laughing right now? Why am I about to start laughing? Man, for those of you who don't like this album, please understand that Slipknot is trying to do what they want to, is doing what they want to do. Who cares if it doesn't sound like 1999 or whatever, 2001? Doesn't matter at this point. This is arguably this is definitely their most experimental album to date. There is hints of industrial metal, maybe extreme metal at times, maybe. You can want to go that far. But wow, this is such a strong album. I don't know why people don't like this record. The amount of just aggression and emotion with this one, and the different song types, how the oscillation of tempo just really seems to balance things out nicely. I like how this album is well balanced. The free flow of ideas doesn't seem abrupt. They have a nice change in pace. Sure, yeah, two of those 6-minute cuts near the end of the album may seem a little long, as I discussed in the album review of my best friend Chris. Go check that out. It was published in the end of September, but oh my lord, this album just took the cake with this one. This is among their better albums for sure. It could be in top 3 potentially. Yeah, it could be of their albums of all time. See, this album proved to me that Slipknot is still relevant in a big way. They don't want to be a cardboard copy of themselves. You know, they've proven that they want to make an album different. Each album has its own thing. You can really tell that if you pay attention to it. And I think this was a nice comeback from what the Great Chapter was. Number 11. Wow, number 11, I have just been so hooked on with for a long time at this point, it feels like. Number 11 is Dream Theater with Distance Over Time. This came out in February, and it's almost top 10. There was just 10 other albums that did even better. I mean, that's how competitive this year was. But Dream Theater, after what happened with The Astonishing, I was really nervous for this album. I'm like, man, I hope this next album of theirs is good. I hope it sounds good. The Astonishing wasn't all that for me. Way too long, too much keyboard filler. It was just a lot of filler in general, let's put it that way. But man, oh man. When I listened to the whole album, my fears were erased from the get-go. Untethered Angel, a more modern, heavy Dream Theater, especially with Paralyzed. Falling to the Light sounds like more of a classic Dream Theater. Barstool Warrior is a nice mix of the two. You know, you really just get a nice, different sense of each song. Especially with the two longest songs, that Woodson and Pale Blue Dot. Oh my lord, don't get me started on Pale Blue Dot. That song is one of my favorite songs of the year, arguably. Like, for real. Just one of their best closers. One of Dream Theater's best closing songs to an album in their discography. My goodness, that song, the riffing, the tempo, the time signatures, the complexion, the chaos in this album is real. Dream Theater definitely needed a slight comeback after The Astonishing. This was probably the best way to do it. I wouldn't have changed anything about this album. I think it's their third shortest album to date or something like that. No, it's their third album to not pass 1 hour. Generally, their albums do exceed an hour, but my god. Please pick this up if you haven't yet. Please pick this up if you haven't yet. Phenomenal album right here. Whew, we've gotten through a lot of albums so far, folks, but we have 10 more to go. Here are the top 10. Here is the top 10, I should say. Number 10 is Norma Jean with All Hail. Metalcore. Yeah, Metalcore, as I said, was a busy year. I would say this was probably the best Metalcore album of the year, especially with some of the creativity they did. Norma Jean just flat out killed it with this one. I loved the fiery pace that they had at times with this one, and also how they slowed things down a bit, especially towards the album. It made you just feel it. You felt the whole entire album. I don't know what to say. You felt it. You really, really did. I don't know what it was about this record. I felt the emotion with this one. I really felt the aggression. I just felt everything with it. You know, these songs were just really good. I mean, I don't know what to say. Just a very good album that just had a nice pace to it at times. The diversity of pace was great, you know, and they weren't willing to stick to the same thing. They wanted to kind of expand a little bit too. So, yes, all hail this album. This is a great album. Number 9 is Whitechapel with the Valley. Oh my god, this is a personal experience through the words of the lead singer. For those who don't know, Whitechapel, the lead singer, you know, both of his parents have been dead for almost 20 years now. And, you know, you really feel the emotion of the emotions he has, based on true events by Whitechapel. And you, from the get-go, from the first song, you knew this was going to be something different, a different monster. You have the heaviness of this album, like with Forgiveness as Weakness, the violence you feel from it, along with going all the way to the soft, the ballad of Whitechapel, which is Hickory Creek. That song was just, I don't know what to say about that song. That was such a well executed song. It wasn't even funny. And then you have songs like Lovelace, which is a assault on your ears. It seems like, not in a bad way. You feel just, and also too, inspiration of lyrics. You know, he took, from what I talked about in the album review back in mid-August, how the lead singer Phil Bozeman, how he found his mother's journal. She would always like write stuff in it and stuff, and she had like different disorders and stuff, and just, oh my lord. And then Doom Woods is a very slow, cathartic closer. This whole album was just, it was insane to listen to this. I felt it from the get-go. Whitechapel, this is arguably their best album, I think, in their entire discography. This beats Endless War. I said it, and I'll say it again. Some of the best lyrics I've heard. Man, I feel it too. And I can understand where he's coming from. Number 8 is Alter Bridge with Walk the Sky. Oh my lord. Alter Bridge is one of the best rock / metal bands right now. Arguably. They're so underrated. Miles Kennedy and Mark Tremonti, the duo, oh my lord, they're almost unstoppable at this point. This has got to be Alter Bridge's best effort yet. I mean, yeah, they got Blackbird, don't get me wrong. But wow, the ideas that were circulating through with this one were just impeccable. It was like untouchable. Just fine riffing, nice slow pacing, especially the song Wouldn't You Rather, going to Nea's Son. Forever Falling is oh my lord, it's a phenomenal song. Pay No Mind. You kind of hear a little bit, I think, a keyboard maybe at times in this album, but man, the ideas just feel rich. They don't feel like the same thing over and over again. You feel a different experience with each song. There's 14 tracks on here. It's a 60-minute album, but man, this album just really spoke to me in another way that caused it to become one of the best of the year. I felt the emotion from the get-go with this one. Same like the Whitechapel album, except this was just where you feel like you are walking the sky. You're walking on the clouds of life, and you feel life. You are feeling it. You can breathe. The air is clear with this one. Please pick this album up if you haven't yet. Absolutely recommend it, especially if you're into like the rock and metal, just a general rock and metal style. Number 7 is Swallow the Sun with When a Shadow is Forced into the Light. I don't know why the text is cut off down there. Just ignore it. But going back to Feeling Emotion. This is a doom metal album. This is a depressing album, believe it or not. It is. Just flat out saying it. This revolves around the theme of when the lead singer lost his, I think it was his girlfriend or wife or something like that. I don't know what it was, but she passed away 3.5 years ago. And it served as inspiration towards what the output of this album was going to be. This is a depressing, dark album. You feel the sorrow of losing somebody with this record. You really think back to who you lose in your life, too. I sort of thought about that, too, when I listened to this record. You feel the depressive state of mind, one that feels like they've lost all hope. Also, too, like with when a shadow is forced into the light, that shadow being used to the darkness, when they see the light, you see all the problems it has caused, and there's forgiveness seems so far away, or acceptance is so far away from your reach, for wanting to accept the situation for what it is. I don't know what to say. This is among the best doom metal albums of the year. An incredible trip, which brings the darkness, that dark cloud over your head. And once you listen to it, you kind of feel like you just walked through someone. You definitely walked through someone's shoes a little bit. Number 6, speaking of doom metal, probably arguably my favorite doom metal album of the year, is Candlemass with the Door of Doom. Oh my god. This, where do I even start? This is like Doom meets Groove. And there is just, the pacing with this one is the one thing that gets me the most, almost, with this record. You really feel it enticed me from the start. The track also featuring Tony Iommi. This felt like old school Doom. You know, you just felt the pressure. You felt the atmosphere with this record. I know I've said this so many times now, but here's the thing. There's only so many words you can use to describe albums. And this is just one of those albums that, my lord, it just goes to show that sometimes simplicity, you can, doesn't matter if it's just simplicity at its finest. Sometimes it turns out well, depending on how you do it. The riffing in here doesn't feel old. Each song has something new to offer. I like the expansion of the songs. This one, the form of some of the songs is great. How they utilized it. They utilized their sources really well, enough to reach number 6 on this list. A list that is extremely competitive this year. That just goes to show that Candlemass are veterans at this, and they are. This is their 12th album. They've been around since the mid-'80s. They are considered among the leading bands of doom metal, and for a right reason. We're finally at the top 5. Number 5 is Cavitation with Death Atlas. I don't know where to start with this. This is an aggressive album from start to finish. Oh, Jesus. Themes dealing with climate change and anti-human stuff, you know, our own, how we're destroying, you know, the planet itself and all that, you know, how humanity feels like it's drawing closer to the end, you know, like with songs like just One Day Closer to the End of the World, or the Bring Back the Plague. Wow. Lyrical genius. The lyrical genius of Travis Ryan. You know, this guy just knows how to write songs. So does the rest of the band. They all come together with these ideas, and you get this explosive combination of death metal and technicality that is almost unstoppable. If you were to put death metal albums of the year, this is the top one. Spoiler alert. This is incredible, to say the least. You know, I really loved, you know, you can kind of relate to the hate. Some people have this, and there's people that have the same outlook too. Everyone has their own outlook on the earth and stuff, and I'll be honest too. You know, there's a lot of us that, you know, our act is not received well, you know, at times with how things are. Climate change is very real. That is true. I will say that right now. You know, we as you know, I don't know how to explain it. It really is hard to explain. I'm not going to get into all of that because that's just a whole other story. With how people are nowadays too, with climate change. People are like, oh, it's not real and all that. Oh boy, don't even get me started. But anyway, Death Atlas serves, the title is like a metaphor for what it really is. The death of our own planet, basically. Insane, it's just crazy. And then the final track, the self-titled track, which is the last track on the album, just stretched out catharsis of intensity. Well done to these guys. Number 4 is Devin Townsend with Empath. This was at one point album of the year. Obviously that's not the case this time around, but wow, among the best creative albums of the year overall, there's certainly one that might beat it. Not going to spoil it. Devin Townsend has had a long career with just so many different things he's done. He's done so many different albums, from flat out just heavy metal to doing albums like this, kind of having that creative spark feel and just doing what he wants to do, making things mix that shouldn't mix together, but it works how he does that. I'll give you an example from this album. How he combines things that are like a happy day and then suddenly turn into darkness. There are certain songs that do this. Each song on here has its own different tale, and it all somehow flows together. There is set hidden. It feels like the transition's hidden. You have to find it, but once you find it, it's very rewarding how it goes. Wow. And then Singularity, the 23-minute closer. It feels like the whole album stretched into one, put into one song, but sped up almost. Almost, not entirely, but Singularity is just a great closer. There's some like, elements of even some jazz in there in the middle of it too, and it's just flat out heaviness, heavy riffing in this is present in this song too. Wow, there's too many words to use for this record, and we gotta get through 3 more albums, so I'll let the album do the talking, but please pick this up if you haven't yet. Number 3, I think a lot of you probably thought this was going to be number 1, but number 3 is Tool with Fear Inoculum. Okay. The first thing I'm going to say is that Tool, it had been 13 years since they released an album. August 30th, 2019. Here's Fear Inoculum. We got the first single, people were already complaining. The album comes out, well received, very well received. This is Tool at their wisest, at their most high-tiered, best paced album probably, most focus. I can go on all day. This is a band that has the matureness of this album is at an all-time high. This album does take multiple listens to figure it out. It's a rather oscillated journey. It feels like you're in a dream at times with this one. Fear Inoculum serves as the purpose of it. Look at the album cover. I mean, it's like, if you really think about it, it's practically like you're just kind of in a never-ending spiral of just the number 7. I'm sorry, I got lost there, but the number 7 plays a huge role in this. That's basically the tempo they used. Unusual time signature, of course. 7 main tracks, 79 minutes. 7? No 7 in my score, of course. But overall, this album is just amazing. Simply amazing. Seeing them live back on November 2nd was incredible. I can't explain it because I don't know how to explain it. It's really tough to explain a show like that. I also forgot to mention, too, I saw Dream Theater back on the September 27th. That was a phenomenal show. So I saw 2 of my favorite bands in a span of 5 weeks this year. Incredible. I almost forgot to say I saw 311 back over the summer, but anyway, moving on. Number 2 is a Legion with Apoptosis. This might be seen as a big surprise. Then again, not. This was a very well-received album, critically acclaimed, basically. For all the right reasons. This is technical metal, like, nice groove, a groovy album to say the least. The different riffing in here, metalcore-like aspects of this record, it's incredible. There's so much great stuff going on with this album. For some reason, this album just flat out showed to be way more than what I originally thought it was. The pacing is incredible with this one. I love the emotion, the ride of emotion with this one. That's another thing I really loved about it. It just continuously changes. You're on the edge of your seat Like with songs such as Tsunami and Submergence. The last track, Apoptosis, the self-titled. Man. Incredible. You have just the free flow of ideas were amazing. That's all I can really say about it. You have to listen to it, honestly, I think. Even kicks off with such a great first 2-minute song, Parthenogenesis. But there was one album this year that absolutely just did it for me. The circle was full, complete. It was a perfect circle. No pun intended towards the band, but one band was incredible this year. Some of you are going to see this as maybe a biased pick potentially. For some, I don't know what you're thinking it like that for, but I couldn't find a mistake. I tried so hard to find a mistake with this album I'm about to present. Ladies and gentlemen, the best album, the best rock and metal album of 2019, number 1 is Periphery, with Periphery 4, Hail Stan. As you can see on the screen, it's a perfect score. It's the only perfect score I gave, the first one I gave as well ever in my time reviewing albums. 9 tracks, 64 minutes. The first and last tracks are 27 minutes in total time. This album opens up with a 16-minute hitter. Almost 17-minute hitter, Reptile. Flawless album. I didn't find a single mistake with this record. I couldn't. With the ability of creative freedom, they are now able to do what they wanted to do. The ideas between everyone else, including the main guitarist, the founding member Misha Mansour, everyone else, did it for me. It did it for me. It was just incredible. I don't even know what to say. There was like some of the heaviest riffing I've heard in my entire life in songs such as Blood Eagle and Church Murder. Wow. A Garden of Bones, a swift, more melodic song. It's Only Smiles, its own thing. Kind of having a more of a synth poppy aspect. Crush being a techno, like disco metal song. Symptom and Glow kind of being more of a metalcore song. And then Satellites. Oh my. Satellites, the closer, is incredible. I liked how they just slowed things out and made it feel like it was closure. This album felt like the way it was supposed to. Wow. I don't know if I have a favorite song off this album. This is just an incredible album. These guys put together their best album of their entire career yet, by far. Periphery, congratulations on Album of the Year. You guys deserve it. The roller coaster of emotions, I couldn't explain with this one. And ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for this list of top 40 rock and metal albums of 2019. This year has been incredible for music, and I hope to see you all again next year in 2020 as we get ready for another year of great music, as we start a new decade into our lives, to our futures. Let's do this, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first and foremost, I want to say thank you to all of you for watching and have subscribed to the channel. You guys are awesome. Family, thank you very much. The next video that will be coming will be my last video of the 2019 year, actually, believe it or not. I am doing one more video. It will be my top 20 the top 20 best albums that I discovered in the 2010s. Please stay tuned for that. I'll catch you guys again soon. Have a great rest of your 2019. See you guys again soon.